First off, I'd like to ask you about the new album, They Bleed Red. What are you most excited about with this album?
Well, the fact that we feel very strong about the record, with the record, it just in general, the sound of it, the songs, the quality, we're really really proud and yeah, just like want to have it out and people hear it because I feel like it's a big improvement from the first record. So I want to see like I want to pretty much see people's reaction and I can't wait to play this new material live too because I feel like it's an improvement also in terms of how the material is going to translate live.
Yeah, well, I had a listen to it last week, and I mean, dude, it is definitely a step up when it comes to heaviness and things like that. So, you guys have definitely grown as a band.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely that was one of the ideas when we started working on this record. We all agreed we wanted to make the record heavier, but obviously keeping it melodic in a way that we there are a lot of hooks and it's catchy and groovy and but definitely like darker and heavier.
Well, that's it. I mean, one of the things from the previous album was, although there wasn't quite so much heaviness there in the music, lyrically there was a lot of heaviness as well, and that was one of the things that I mean, I think a lot of people appreciated too. Was there was some really interesting dark lyrics that were, that touched a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. And then I mean, this record also obviously Howard's the guy who writes the lyrics, and on this record there's still a lot of that kind of style of writing for sure because that's our style and but I feel like maybe it's got a slightly it definitely has a different attitude in terms of lyrics. It is obviously like the first record that was after a few years of when he quit music and he had like a really hard time in between with the fighting depression and just not feeling good at all. So I feel like a lot of those things they translate to those lyrics and for the first record. This one has got a definitely a more energetic and powerful kind of attitude, but still also very intense. Obviously, and you hear in certain songs like "Let the Pain Take Hold," there's like a lot of you know a lot of in, intensity for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. And I was going to ask you a little bit about the writing and recording process, how much it's changed since that first album. Because I know with the first album, a lot of that was you and John sitting down and writing, 20, 30 tracks, maybe more, and then going away and dissecting and deciding which ones to use. What was it like this time?
Well, this time we kind of knew more. Like first time was like obviously a lot of it. It was kind of like an experiment. Everything was like the first time. This time we knew more like what we wanted, and so like the idea was like okay, we don't. First of all, we don't need to write as many songs. Now we know we want the fast song that does this, and then let's make the song awesome, and then we would write on it. We would write for it, and then move on. Like okay, let's do a song like this, and it was still like John and I just like working on ideas for a long time, and then just like making those ideas better and better, and you know once we had like really good like solid pre-production like demos, that's when we usually get Howard involved, and then we got to do a good amount of pre-production in the studio with our producer, and yeah, so that was like kind of a kind of like the same process, but also at the same time different because, like I said, this time was like we were aiming for like specific songs and sounds, more than the
Yeah.
first time.
Well, that's it. I mean, and as a I guess a songwriting duo, you would have by now sort of got each other's intricacies and sort of without saying bonded, but you've got that understanding now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's one of the, like, I think, the more you play with the people, even like playing live shows or just hanging out with people, you just like learn so much about them that it's like even musically, now we know more and more what each other wants, and if I'm writing a part, now I know more. I'm more and more familiar with Howard's voice and then his range, and then what's gonna be like a good kind of like chord progression for him is like, I want this part to sound just like huge, epic. I'm gonna write something like this. His voice is gonna be perfect for it, and things like that. So it's like, yeah, we do know each other's sound and taste a lot more now.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, all that sort of stuff comes across when you guys play live and all that sort of thing. So, it's always good to have that bond within the band.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
So, you got invited back down to Soundwave again. I mean, that's pretty cool. What,
That's so
be
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, 2 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, I mean, that's a treat, mate, because how many bands really get to do that quite so quickly as well?
Yeah, and then the awesome thing is like the first time we came, and that was our first show ever, and then we didn't even have a record out. This time we come back after 2 years, and we'll have two records out.
Oh, dude, that's outstanding.
Yeah, so that's awesome. It's like, well, the first time was so ridiculous. We couldn't believe it because like we all knew about Soundwaves, like we've done it with other bands, or we just knew about it, and then it was like right away, especially because of John, he was like constantly telling our agent and manager, and it's like, oh, we want to do Soundwave, we want to do Soundwave again, and then yeah, that was like, yeah, sure, and that's awesome. Like we had so much fun. I mean, every time I've come to like that part of the world, it's just fun. It's awesome. It's beautiful, and yeah, and it's just like the shows are great. And I know there's like a little bit of less shows this time because last time we did 5 shows. This time is 3 shows. So
Yeah, I think they've cut back a little bit. But I talked to John briefly about over here in New Zealand we have a sort of like an offshot from Soundwave where some of the bands that are touring the Soundwave come over and see us here in New Zealand for a show called Westfest.
really,
Oh yeah, and I was talking to John about it, and so he was. Well, we're hoping that we'll get you guys to come over
man,
for
that'll
that.
be awesome. I never played New Zealand.
Oh well, hey, you're more than welcome. And as I say, that it's a show called Westfest. Last year we had, oh sorry, this year we had Faith No More, Soundgarden, Fear
Oh,
Factory, and Judas Priest. And dude, it was absolutely outstanding. And all those bands came from the Soundwave touring lineup and just came over and did the one day for us. And
nice.
oh mate, it was absolutely magic.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna tell our man. I'm sure John told him already, but I'm gonna remind them, manager and agent, about this.
But anyway, back to the interview. Sorry, I digressed there.
No, of course.
Um, the I wanted to talk to you a little bit about I guess your influences and inspirations and what made you pick up the guitar in the first place.
Uh, well, I mean, influences is just I come from a very like a musical family. Just growing up with everybody kind of playing music, taking me like my parents taking me to shows, and like it could be like rock shows, could be like classical music, could be anything. And so always being like, my parents would be at home playing music, playing CDs, playing old vinyls, and that's kind of like how it starts. I think it's like for most people, it's just like when you just hear it all the time and you start like making that kind of like figuring out, it's like, okay, so how do you create that? But for me it was kind of weird because so many people were doing music. Like my brother is a musician, active musician in Italy, and then my cousin's a professional musician. So all these people, and I felt like I can't be also doing this. So I was the only one not playing an instrument really. I mean, I did play saxophone when I was younger, and
Impressive.
but all these other people were just like doing it right away, kind of like very seriously. And for me, it was just I'll try. And then I had all these guitars at home because of my brother, and it really never touched one. I always felt like, oh nah, it's like everybody's doing it. And then I was like very much into sports and like working out and martial arts and all this. And then I got a bit of an injury when I was 19 years old, and that's when I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to do all this, so I'm gonna try to play guitar. And that was like the best 5 minutes of my life. It was like I grabbed a guitar. It was like, holy shit, what have I been doing? Not playing this. And that was it. Like a week later, I was already talking, like telling my parents, and I'm like 19, so I'm not 10 years old telling my parents, oh, I want to be an astronaut. It's like, hey, I want to do this. I want to be like do this for a living, and I want to be a professional musician. And I was like, you just started playing guitar, but then, yeah, that was like really, really like I got so into it right away. It was incredible, and it's been like that since. So it's yeah, it's been awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic, mate. So, who would be some of your guitar heroes?
Well, at that time, it was like the people that obviously like everybody was showing me, and then I fell in love with. It was like you get Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, John Petrucci, and all these people were just like phenomenal. And it was
Yep.
like, and then there's like some of these people like it was more like the interest of like just what they do, just then even like think about, oh, I really like that song. It's just like holy crap, it's like they're doing things that I didn't know you could do with an instrument. And
Yep.
but not to say they're not great writers, obviously. But so yeah, and then it just like so I fell in love with just like very technical kind of music right away. But then I guess like later on I started also being very interested in the songwriting aspect where you don't really need crazy skills on an instrument, but there are completely different other skills, which also you got to learn. You not just sit down the first time and write a great song. And it's just like a lot of practice, a lot of trying, and a lot of throwing away horrible songs. And I mean, and I still do it. It's like most of the time that most of the stuff that I write, I never do anything with it. It's just like, there's like the song that I'm happy with maybe comes after like five songs that I just throw away. So it's yeah, it's a lot of work, but yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting to hear that. I mean, because I know a lot of people sit there and they might try and have a crack at writing something, and they think it's crap, and then they give up. And you talking like that is definitely inspiration to keep on trying.
Well, I mean, I have students too, and then so many times I hear, and that used to be me. I'll be like, okay, so I have this riff. I love this riff, and I can't write anything that is as good as that riff, so I'm just stuck. And then in the end, they end up stopping, and then end up not writing anything. And then a few months later, oh, I tried to write something else, but it's terrible. And it's to me, that's actually one of my teachers at Berkeley because I had the same kind of problem. And then I asked him, it's like, how do I get decent or good at writing? And then they asked me, it's like, how much time do you practice technique and all that every day at home? It's like many hours. It's like, how much do you practice writing songs? And I'm like, never. It's like people don't practice writing songs. So this teacher told me, you know what? From now on, every day you write a song. Now, maybe all the songs are going to be crap, but every day you got to write a song that's got verse, pre-chorus, chorus, at least that structure, and then try, and then keep doing it. And then you end up like a couple months later, you start piling up like you have a lot of cool riffs, and then you start thinking about like, oh, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. Oh, maybe like it's like I can't take like something like a trick a writing idea that I don't know the Beatles used in this '72, and then you can do it, and then for a metal song, and then it sounds awesome, and then you start learning that way, you know.
Oh, dude, that's absolutely awesome, eh? Very cool. So, to go on to a slightly different topic, your career. What would be one of your career highlights?
Uh, I think. Well, I mean, a lot of awesome things, obviously, with this band, and but I feel like probably my highlight was when with my other band, All Shall Perish, we played a show where we were invited by Metallica to play, and uh, and it was All Shall Perish, Deftones, Metallica playing, and Deftones is one of my favorite bands, and I'm playing there on the same stage with Metallica. And before the show, Kirk Hammett came to us to tell us how much he loved the band, and I had a chat with him for like 20 minutes where he was like talking about guitars, talking about like, and him telling me he's like, "Oh man, I don't know how you do this. It's amazing. Like I still trying to learn six string. You guys play seven, eight string, eight, and all this. It's like it was awesome. I mean, it was just one of those things that like wow, I can't believe this is happening."
Yeah.
And yeah, and he was so awesome. He introduced us on stage, and then going on stage telling the crowds like, because obviously on a show like that you go on stage and everybody's gonna be like, Metallica, Metallica, get off stage.
Yeah.
And before we played, so he went on stage and he told everybody, all right, this is one of my favorite bands, pay attention, these guys are awesome. And yeah, it was like so cool.
Oh, mate, I mean, I can't even imagine how awesome that would be. Yeah, I mean, especially somebody like Kirk, dude, that's absolutely brilliant story. Okay, I've got one last question for you before we let you go, and that is words of advice for young musicians.
Well, just know right away that it's not just gonna be about playing your instrument and worrying about your songs and all that, the business part of it. If you're, I'm not talking about, it's like even when you're like, you want to play a band and you're just a local show, there's like a lot of stuff that's involved. It is, you gotta treat bands and music like you would treat the best job ever to really make things happen. And yeah, it's a full time, like for me it is like a full time job. It's like every day it's like a bunch of stuff going on. It's like phone calls and this and that. It's like organizing things. It's constant.
Yeah.
And besides the writing part, which is and then touring, like playing live, which is awesome. But even like touring, you got 23 hours a day where this is like maybe not awesome.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of, even though with the internet and all these things, now you know a lot more about everything if you kind of research and then you look for it. But still, people with music, they kind of have this idea of like just the musician job is some weird thing that is just all fun and nothing else, and it's a lot of work. That's a thing. It's a lot of work.
Oh, I can imagine, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot of us just think it's that moment that you guys get on stage, and that's it. The rest of the time's just partying and all that. And the truth of it is quite far from that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. Oh, thank you so much for your time,
Hey, thank you, man.
Francesco.
Seriously, thank
Uh,
you. Good talking to you.
yeah, no, we really appreciate it, and hopefully, like I said earlier, we'll hopefully get you down here to